morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Hockey Talk with TG podcast. I'm Ty Glenn. Hope you guys are having a great Friday. I'm currently recording this episode on a Thursday, the last day of the 2024-25 regular season. And what a season it has been, from Mac celebrating kind of Bedard scoring off. And then we got Utah Hockey Club playing its first season in NHL. Hopefully they pick a name in the offseason, because I really do hate that name, to be honest. And then we had the Four Nations face-off, which Canada won the first inaugural Four Nations face-off. And then we have Alex Ovechkin breaking Wayne Gretzky's goal record and becoming the greatest goal scorer in the NHL. So there was lots of great things that happened in the regular season, but now all of that is behind us. We are now shifting towards playoff hockey. The bracket is set. These 16 teams will go at it in the Stanley Cup Playoffs. Stanley Cup Playoffs start this Saturday, April the 19th. And in this episode, obviously, I'm going to be handing out my Stanley Cup Playoff predictions of what I think will happen in the 2025 Stanley Cup playoffs. But I just wanted to give a little thank you to everybody who tuned in and listened to the Hockey Talk with TG podcast throughout the 2024-25 regular season. I want to thank you guys truly enough. Obviously, with the busy school schedule that's going on, it kind of annoys me, but I just like to come on here and talk hockey with you guys. It makes my day a lot better with that school schedule that is going on, and with all the classes I have, all the work that I'm doing in college. It just eats you sometimes. But I get to come on my podcast. I get to talk about the greatest sport in the world. I get to talk about the sport that I'm passionate about, that I like, and that is hockey. And I get to talk about it with you guys every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So it just really makes my day better, and it makes it even better if you guys listen and tune in, which you did tune in. I just want to thank you guys truly enough for your support and for you listening and following the Hockey Talk with TG podcast on all your podcast streaming platforms, whether you're following on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or iHeartRadio, or maybe you watching the podcast on YouTube. I just want to thank you guys truly enough. And to the people who do watch or listen to my podcast but are not subscribed or following the podcast, highly encourage you to, because this will be the number one podcast. You will receive the latest NHL news as it comes out. Nobody breaks it down better than me. So this is the podcast where you want to be at, and you want to make sure that you're following the Hockey Talk with TG podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and iHeartRadio, and you are subscribed to the YouTube channel. We are with you every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 11:30 a.m. to noon Central Time, 12:30 p.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Time. So you want to make sure that you're staying up to date on the latest episodes of the Hockey Talk with TG podcast. But again, thank you to everyone who tuned in, who listened, who watched the podcast. I cannot thank you guys truly enough, and I'm blessed to do what I do, and that is do hockey. I don't take anything that I do in life for granted. Always remain humble under God, keeping God first, as always. That's what I always say when I end my episodes of the Hockey Talk with TG podcast. Keep God first. And without God, I wouldn't be where I am today. So I'm truly blessed and humble to do what I'm doing, and the work and the craft that I put in to what I do. And of course, also come on here, talk hockey with you guys, and do hockey in general. So yes, do not take anything for granted in life. So just a little thank you notes, just, being blessed at what I do, and the work and the craft that I do for school, and all the other stuff But one more thing before we go ahead and get started. This episode of the Hockey Talk with TG podcast will be on the TG Hockey channel for all the people that watch the podcast on YouTube. But I will repost it to the community tab of the Hockey Talk with TG podcast YouTube channel. Every year come playoff time, I do my playoff predictions on the TG Hockey channel. So that's why this episode, as you're watching on YouTube, is going to be on the TG Hockey channel. But again, I will repost it to the community tab for the Hockey Talk with TG podcast. But without further ado, we are going to go ahead and get started into the playoff predictions. So I'm going to do the Western Conference first, and then I'm going to work my way to the Eastern Conference, and we'll go from there. So first off, we got the Winnipeg Jets taking on the St. Louis Blues in round one of the Stanley Cup playoffs. The Jets won the season series against the Blues 3-1. They won the President's Trophy. They won the Central Division. And going into this game, or series, I should say, Jets looked like the better team than the St. Louis Blues. The Blues had to fight their way into the playoff spot. They were neck and neck with the Minnesota Wild to fight their way into a playoff spot. So this wasn't an easy battle for the St. Louis Blues to get in here. But with that being said, I'm taking the Winnipeg Jets to win round one against the St. Louis Blues, not only because I hate the Blues, and I'm a Blackhawks fan, by the way, if you don't know. I said this on the podcast before. I also said this on the TG Hockey channel before. I am a Blackhawks fan. I do hate the Blues. We have a long, historic rivalry with each other. I'm not saying that Blackhawks fans hate Blues fans hate Blackhawks fans. I'm just saying I hate the team itself. Like, I don't hate the fans. I hate the team. So that's basically what it is. Blackhawks and Blues rivalry with each other. And plus, that's not the only reason why I picked the Jets to win over the Blues, but also because, like I said, Jets are a high-power offensive team. And I know it's going to be Connor Hellebuck versus Jordan Binnington starting this matchup. The same two goalies that faced off against each other in the Four Nations when Connor Hellebuck was on Team USA. Jordan Binnington was on Team Canada. And, of course, Jordan Binnington's Canadians got the win over Connor Hellebuck's Americans. But this isn't Four Nations. I like the Jets team. They have the better roster. They have highly offensive roster, and the defense looks absolutely solid. All around, just a better team. Therefore, I have the Jets winning the playoff series against the St. Louis Blues. Up next, we are going to take a look at the Dallas Stars and Colorado Avalanche going at it in round one of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Mikko Rantanen facing off against his former team. Dallas Stars just got Tyler Seguin back. He played this final game of the 2024-25 season against the Nashville Predators on Wednesday. I don't think he had to go. The final score is 5-1. I don't know if Tyler Seguin did score in that game, though. But he's back in the lineup. Jason Robinson, I believe, is injured. Mil Heiskanen is injured. So the Stars defense kind of has a little bit of weakness right there. But they have a great offense as well. Avalanche, they're getting Gabriel Landeskog back. I think he's going to be playing in round one of the Stanley Cup playoffs. He did play 2 AHL games with the Colorado Eagles. Obviously, it's been a while since Gabriel Landeskog has played in NHL. Last played in Game 6 of the 2022 Stanley Cup Final, where, of course, the Avalanche won the Stanley Cup that year. But with all of that being said, I like the Avalanche's chances at beating the Dallas Stars. This match could go either way, to be honest. If I'm being honest with you guys, this match could go either way. But I like Colorado's team a lot better, so I'm taking the Avs. Probably in 7. I can see this going to a 7-game series, if I'm being honest, against the Dallas Stars. And then we got the VGK Vegas Golden Knights taking on the Minnesota Wild in round one of the Stanley Cup playoffs. So obviously, just like I said about the St. Louis Blues, Minnesota Wild had to fight their way into the playoff race. It wasn't an easy battle. Obviously, they had a couple injuries going on throughout the, I believe, second half of the season, but they did get Kirill Kaprizov back in the lineup. They got Joe Eriksson-Ek in the lineup. Obviously, the goaltending matchup is most likely going to be Adin Hill versus Marc-Andre Fleury. Obviously, the Flower, Marc-Andre Fleury, is in his final season of the NHL. He's going to be retiring after the postseason. And in the regular season series, Vegas did sweep their season series meets against the Minnesota Wild, winning all 3 games right there. And also, this is the first time since 2021 that these two teams will face off in the Stanley Cup playoffs. But with that being said, I'm taking the Vegas Golden Knights to win over the Minnesota Wild. I believe they can, to be honest, I can see this being a clean sweep, but maybe the Minnesota Wild might win at least one game. So maybe the Golden Knights win in 5. But at first, I initially thought it would be a clean sweep. But I can probably see Minnesota winning at least one game. All right, then we got the LA Kings taking on the Edmonton Oilers, round 1 of the 2025 Stanley Cup playoffs. 4th straight year that these two teams will be going at it in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Of course, the Oilers won this series, I believe, in what, 6? Was it 6 games last year? I believe they won in 6 games last year. Correct me if I'm wrong. I could be wrong, but if I am wrong, just let me know. But I believe the Oilers won in 6 games last season. They also won the series against them in 2023 and 2022. But in the regular season series meets this year, the Kings won 3 out of the 4 regular season series meets. And if you watched my bold predictions video before this 2024-25 season started, I upload that video on the TG Hockey channel. If you watched that video before the season started, you would have known that I had picked the Edmonton Oilers to win the Stanley Cup this year. However, I don't think I see it happening. So, therefore, I'm taking the LA Kings. And like I said, and also I'm taking the Kings because the Oilers also have some injury problems. Leon Draisaitl's out with an injury. Matthias Ekholm's out with an injury. And I just like the Kings' odds at possibly being the Oilers this year. I don't think the Oilers could get it done once again against LA this year. Therefore, I'm taking the Kings to win it. Now, Jets and Blues, I can see the Jets taking this in 6. Taking it in 6 games. Stars and Avalanche, like I said before, I see this being a 7-game series. Obviously, I feel bad for Mikko Rantanen. Going to be getting eliminated by his former team and the team that he won the Stanley Cup with, the Colorado Avalanche. I can see this going to a 7-game series right there. And then the Golden Knights in a while. Like I said, I first originally thought this was probably going to be a clean sweep, but I could see Minnesota winning at least one game. So I'm going to say Golden Knights take this in 5. And then we got the LA Kings taking on the Edmonton Oilers. I got the Kings winning in 6. I don't think it's going to go to 7 games. All right, then we got the Toronto Maple Leafs taking on the Ottawa Senators, the Battle of Ontario. First time since 2004, these two teams to square off in the playoffs. Of course, the Senators won all 3 of the regular season series meets between them and the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, when we think of the Toronto Maple Leafs in Stanley Cup playoffs, we think of round 1 playoff issues. Even though that in 2023 they did beat the Tampa Bay Lightning in round 1 to advance to the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs that year. Ottawa Senators, to be honest, have really surprised me this season, especially with the additions that they added last offseason. They have been that team that has that dog in them, you know. Yes, the Toronto Maple Leafs got Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, William Nylander, Matthew Nyes, but still, I like the Ottawa Senators' chances. Of course, you got Brady Tkachuk coming back to the lineup for them. Obviously, he's been out since the Four Nations with a injury. So therefore, you got the captain coming back. I'm taking the Senators to win this one. I believe they would get it done against the Toronto Maple Leafs. Of course, like I said, when we think of Toronto Maple Leafs, we think of round 1 playoff issues. And then we got the Tampa Bay Lightning taking on the defending Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers in round one of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Of course, the Florida Panthers eliminated the Tampa Bay Lightning last year in 6 games to reach the Stanley Cup final and potentially, and of course, obviously, winning the Stanley Cup. This is a matchup that could go either way. I didn't say that too much about the Stars and Avalanche series, but I believe that series could go either way too. But this matchup, especially between the Lightning and the Panthers, could go either way. Some people had Tampa winning over Florida. Some people had Florida winning over Tampa. Obviously, I would like to see a Kachuk Bowl in the playoffs. Brady and Matthew going at. I think Matthew Kachuk is going to be back with the Panthers for round one, the Stanley Cup playoffs. He was also out since the Four Nations. I don't know. I'm taking Florida. I want to see a Kachuk Bowl in round two. I would love to see that. And plus, you got both Brady and Matthew coming back. They've been out since the Four Nations. Of course, you got the goal scorer in Sam Reinhart. Yes, I know Austin Matthews is a goal scorer for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Not the Toronto. Talking about the Tampa Bay Lightning. I don't know why I said Austin Matthews and Toronto Maple Leafs because I'm talking about the Tampa Bay Lightning. Like I said, this could go either way, but I just see Florida winning this game, and also because I want to see a Kachuk playoff matchup in the second round, so that's why I'm having the Panthers winning over the Tampa Bay Lightning. All right, then we got the Washington Capitals taking on the Montreal Canadiens in round one of the Stanley Cup playoffs. The Capitals won this season series 2-1, and this is the first time since 2010, I believe, that these two teams will square off in the Stanley Cup playoffs, and the Canadiens won that series in 7 games, by the way. So I don't know if they faced off against each other in the playoffs after that time, but I think this is the first time since 2010 that these two teams will go at it in the Stanley Cup playoffs. But the Canadiens, I do like their group. They had to fight their way into this. It was not an easy battle after losing games against the Toronto Maple Leafs and Toronto Maple Leafs and Chicago Blackhawks. Both original 6 teams right there. They lost 1-0 to the Maple Leafs in overtime, lost 4-3 to the Blackhawks in the shootout. They had to fight their way into this playoff spot, and they got it done against the Carolina Hurricanes team, surprisingly. Of course, they were without Sebastian Aho in that game, but still. But with that being said, I'm taking the Washington Capitals. I do like the Canadiens team. They got Cole Caulfield, my favorite player to watch. They got Nick Suzuki, Uri Slavkovsky. They got Ivan Demidov in the mix now, who, of course, many Blackhawks fans wanted to see in a Blackhawks sweater. But that did not happen. But we're happy with the group that we have already. But anyway, I just feel like Washington will take this season series. But I do like Montreal's team. They have a great team, but I'm liking the Capitals' chances to win against the Canadiens in this series. Logan Thompson, he's out with an injury for the Washington Capitals. Charlie Lindgren's most likely going to be the starter for the Capitals in round one. We would just have to see how that would go, but I believe it should go out, just fine. And then we got the Carolina Hurricanes taking on the New Jersey Devils. So, of course, the Devils will be without Jack Hughes for this playoffs. They did get Dougie Hamilton back in the lineup, though. But the Devils overall have few injury issues. And I just like the Hurricanes team. They have the best roster stacked on paper. Give me Carolina. All right, so I'm going to say the Senators beat the Leafs, and we'll make it 7 games. I was originally going to say 6, but I would love to see a 7-game series between the Toronto Maple Leafs and Ottawa Senators, the Battle of Ontario. And then we got the Tampa Bay Lightning taking on the Florida Panthers. I have the Panthers winning in 7. Same thing with the Senators and Leafs. I would love to see a 7-game series between them. And like I said, this matchup could go either way, Lightning and Leafs. And then we got the Capitals and the Canadiens. I'll say the Capitals take this one in 6. It's going to be in 6 games for the Capitals. And for the Hurricanes and Devils, like I said, Devils have a few injury problems there without their star player in Jack Hughes. I see this being a clean sweep. All right, now we're on to round 2 of these Stanley Cup playoffs. And we got the Winnipeg Jets taking on the Colorado Avalanche. So this should be an interesting matchup right here. So obviously the Jets being the President's Trophy winners, the Avalanche having the superstars and Gabriel Landeskog, Nathan McKinnon. They also got Cam McCarr, Devon Tage, Eric Johnson, Josh Manson on defense. So their defense is structure. It is solid. I love the Avs defense. I love their offensive lines. But the Jets, they're the better team. They're the high-power offensive team right there. Give me the Jets. And then we got the Golden Knights taking on the LA Kings in the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. So another interesting series right there. The Golden Knights actually did they sweep LA? I know they met in 2018. I don't know if that was a clean. I believe it was a clean sweep for the Golden Knights in 2018. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think that was a clean sweep. I don't think it went to 5, 6, 7 games, but obviously this is a different LA team now than what it was in 2018. Obviously, Jonathan Quick was still with the Kings then, and Dustin Brown was still on the Kings. So Quentin Byfield wasn't on the roster then. He was drafted in 2020. So this is a different LA Kings team now, but I just like the Golden Knights' chances. So I'm taking the Golden Knights right there against the LA Kings. And then we got the Ottawa Senators taking on defending Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers. The Kachuk Bowl. Love to see it. You guys know who I'm most likely going to go with. I'm taking the Florida Panthers. I like their odds at beating the Ottawa Senators in the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. I don't think the Senators have the team to match the Florida Panthers. The Florida Panthers, obviously, heck of a team, stacked on paper. Give me the Florida Panthers conference finals. And then we got the Capitals taking on the Carolina Hurricanes. Now, Capitals did surprise me this season. Same thing with the Ottawa Senators. They did surprise me. I don't know. If I go with Washington Capitals, I know I'm getting chirped for sure. So this is a tough one between Washington and Carolina. I think each of these teams, the Capitals and Hurricanes, did win 2 of their season series. So it was a 4-game season series between the Caps and the Canes. Each team won 2 apiece. I could see this matchup going to 7 games in the playoffs. But I don't know who would I go with. The Hurricanes did beat the Capitals in the 2019 Stanley Cup playoffs in Game 7 to advance to the second round. Could it be the same thing here? Don't know. I think I'm going to go with Washington on this one. Let me know you guys' thoughts on that. I probably made the wrong decision, but I'm sticking with Washington. Ovi broke the goal record this year. He could possibly go all the way to get a Stanley Cup. I don't know. We'll just have to see. Get another Stanley Cup, I should say, because he did win the Stanley Cup in 2018. And then we got the Jets and the Golden Knights and the Panthers and the Capitals in the conference finals. Jets, Golden Knights. These are 2 great teams. I like these 2 great teams. The Golden Knights did beat the Jets in the 2023 and 2018 Stanley Cup playoffs. I probably could see Vegas winning this series once again. Give me Vegas in this one. Got the Vegas Golden Knights winning the series. And then the Capitals and the Panthers. I don't know. This is a tough one. The Golden Knights played both of these teams in the Stanley Cup final, by the way. They played the Capitals in 2018. They played the Panthers in 2023. Give me the Panthers. Give me the Panthers. All right, now, Golden Knights or Panthers, Stanley Cup champion. Who's going to win it all? Rematch of the 2023 Stanley Cup final between Vegas in Florida. Will Vegas do it once again and beat the Panthers in the 2023 not 2023, 2025 Stanley Cup Final? Could it happen again, just like it did in 2023? I don't know. I really do like the Golden Knights roster, though. They have a heck of a roster. Panthers basically have a few veterans. Brad Marchand, Seth Jones. I don't know. This is a tough one. I think I'm going to take Vegas. I think Vegas does it again. And for this one, I'm just going to type a random number in here. I don't know how many goals we scored in the Stanley Cup Final. I know when it comes to this, I'm always wrong. I'm pretty sure I'll be wrong again. But let me know you guys' thoughts on my playoff bracket. Do you agree with some of these predictions? Do you disagree with some of these predictions? Just let me know down in the comments below. Do you think this is how it would go? Do you think the Golden Knights will be the team to lift the Stanley Cup this year? Like I said, going into the season, I had the Oilers winning. I don't think that's going to be the case now. I think Vegas is going to get it done. So, yeah. That's going to do it for this episode of the Hockey Talk with TG podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in as always. And also, again, thank you to everyone who listened to the Hockey Talk with TG podcast throughout the 2024-25 regular season. I really do appreciate it. Thank you to everybody that's following the Hockey Talk with TG podcast, whether that's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, or on YouTube. Just want to thank you guys once again. I love coming on here and talking about hockey with you guys. I'm passionate about hockey as well. So it's just always a blast coming on here and talking about the greatest sport in the world, hockey. So, yeah, just thank you once again to everybody who's tuned in, who's following the Hockey Talk with TG podcast, and also following the TG Hockey channel as well. Of course, make sure you go subscribe to the TG Hockey channel if you have not already. We're on the road to 500 subscribers for the YouTube channel right there. So if you haven't subscribed to the TG Hockey YouTube channel, make sure you go subscribe right there. Also, make sure that you are following the Hockey Talk with TG podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and iHeartRadio, and you are subscribed to the YouTube channel. We are with you every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 11:30 a.m. to noon Central Time, 12:30 p.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Time. So you want to make sure that you're staying up to date on the latest episodes of the Hockey Talk with TG podcast. Again, to all the viewers that are watching on YouTube, this will be on the TG Hockey channel. I always put out my playoff predictions on that channel every year. So that's why this episode's on that channel. But I will repost it to the Hockey Talk with TG podcast community tab YouTube channel for you to watch. Both of you guys have a great rest of your day. God first, as always. Be blessed. I will see you guys Monday for another episode of the Hockey Talk with TG podcast. And enjoy the Stanley Cup playoffs. Starts this Saturday, April the 19th. Should be a fun one. Get your popcorn and snacks ready. And I'll see you guys all on Monday. Take care.